Hey, welcome back to the Work It podcast. It's Nat, and with me, as always, is my co host, Gerald. Now, Gerald, I have a question for you. Are you happy at work?
I think I am
Mm-hmm.
happy, but if I have to add on a little bit more, I'm happy because I'm grateful for what my work is giving me,
Okay.
and I'm also grateful for what I'm being able to give to my work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, putting a bit of mystery
Yeah,
behind
yeah,
that, it's a long story, but maybe we can talk about it over coffee, right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
how about yourself?
Well, I would say I'm very, very happy at work. Yeah.
Because your boss is listening.
No, that's not the reason at all, but I am very happy at work, yes. But I was asking this question, right, because I was speaking with some friends recently,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them just out of nowhere in a lull in the conversation just brought up, "Hey guys, are you happy at your jobs?" Because they realized that it's been a while since they felt genuinely happy, like they could say they are happy at work.
Mm.
And they were trying to break it down because we all used to work together,
Mm-hmm.
and they were trying to understand what it took to recapture that
Mm.
magic. And I guess the question that we're going to answer in today's episode is, what is the secret to happiness
Wow,
at
wow.
work?
Yes, this is a question that many people would be really, really wanting to hear because I've heard my fair share of people saying, I'm just working for the sake of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is there more to it, right?
Here to help us unpack all of this is Jasmine Liew, organization development consultant and founder of Breakthrough Catalyst. Welcome, Jasmine, to the podcast. So, Jasmine, the reason that we are speaking today is because there was a report that was released recently, right? Jobstreet's Workplace Happiness Index measured that almost half of us Singaporeans are unhappy at work, 44%. And that puts Singapore at second place in Asia Pacific as the unhappiest workers. So that's probably not something we want to boast about, but the question is, why are we so
Mm.
unhappy at our jobs? And I
Mhm.
think you have some visual aids to help you with this answer. Why is it that we're not happy at work?
Great. I thought I want to bring two characters to with me. I think it's Chinese New Year. So you may heard about this case in China where they have this toy production.
Yes.
They're supposed to produce this horse that is a cheerful,
Mhm.
but the stuff actually so opposite direction. It becomes from a cheerful to a crying horse.
Wow.
And initially, they was very afraid that this is someone that's a manufacturing defect and people will not buy it. But the netizens actually post it on their social media and become a hot topic and a bestseller
Mm.
because they can relate this very well that majority of our work is supposed to be cheerful, but instead of the cheerful, they actually become
Yeah.
crying horse.
Mhm.
I think happiness at work is really the day to day, how are you feeling? And I felt that we could do better in the sense. First, how do we define workplace happiness? When we come to work, there are three key factors. Number one is meaningfulness. Do you find this job meaningful for you? That just now Gerald mentioned he felt he's grateful for the opportunity and
Mm-hmm.
he's grateful he has a chance to display his skills. And that comes under competence when you feel that you're at your best. And the third, of course, is autonomy.
Mm.
I think all of us wants to have a little bit of that space to propose ideas, to use our creativity and contribute. So in terms of these three factors, I think it defines very well about the happiness of the individual and also the team.
But there's also a group of people that I'm sure you heard of this group of people who just say like, work is just work,
Work is work, yeah.
and then why should I be happy at work?
Yeah, because there are quite a lot of people who I know who separate their work lives and their so-called life, right?
Mm.
Because they decide that, the work is just what I do to be able to afford my life.
Yes.
Is it because people are dissociating from their
Mm.
life and their work life that they are not happy when they switch to that persona at work?
I think that our life and work are very integrated.
Mhm.
Yeah, just like I may ask you a question, what makes you happy in life? I'm sure there's one component that's about work. Yes, so I think most of us would find that that should be an integration
Mm.
whereby I'm at my best, I enjoy what I'm doing, I have meaningfulness in myself, my growth. But at the same time, people can get a bit burnout because they felt that I want to disassociate because I feel it's pointless, it's meaningless to do at my best. I just come here to sail through that journey, just cruise over and then just get that make sure that I clock in the time and just get a salary. So it becomes very transactional and partially it's also they felt transactional in their role because their leaders may feel that you're paid for a job, right? So I pay you for the job, you should be doing this, don't tell me about your problems and challenges. And after a while, they start to feel that since it's transactional, I'll be transactional. I'll just do the bare minimum and may not want to put in extra effort and time, and I will just disassociate myself with the work context.
For those who are finding themselves not quite content, not quite happy, but they do want to be happy at work, how can they, I guess, break down what is missing or what is quote unquote wrong with their workplace life?
I would say that it's a journey, it's just a marathon. Even for those who feel that it's okay not to feel happy at work. But there must be a reason why it takes place. Because I believe that everyone, when you started working, you want to contribute to your best, but
Right.
something may have happened. But for those of us who are still in this journey, just like life marathon, it's also career runway. I think it's important for us to seek happiness. Right? It's two-way conversation. Of course, the leaders have to play a key role because role modeling is being proactive and intentional to ask the powerful question that you mentioned: what drives energy and enthusiasm for you at work? What does happiness at work means to you?
Yeah.
And of course, the staff can also share his or her perspective so that this communication will achieve a mutual understanding. So this moment, I think the research also shows that majority of the employees felt that workplace happiness is possible.
Oh, okay.
But why is it not happening?
Right.
Why is there a gap? So I felt that the gap comes from leaders. Maybe they are not aware, they have not really seek out, or assume that since this defines my workplace happiness, it should be the same as yours. And of course, when we do have that communication, like what we are doing now, we actually define what does workplace happiness means to you. It's much easier and clearer for me to understand your needs and personalize these to your needs.
Yeah. So Jasmine, you mentioned about how the workplace happiness is actually quite subjective. Is it easy and even fair for companies to try to make the workers happy since everybody wants something a little bit different?
So I would say there are 3 levels. The first level is job satisfaction, but it may not be engaged. You're just happy with the conditions of the work, like hygiene factors, the pay, the safe environment, the kind of expectations. But that's just a bare minimum. The next level is, of course, engagement. Engagement means that you're willing to go beyond your job description, to do the extra mile. And that's where engagement surveys do find out more that it's beyond just pay. It could be recognition, appreciation, career progression, finding purpose at work, and also it's part of autonomy. Do I feel empowered that when I speak up in meetings, my voice is being heard and valued? Am I feeling a sense of belonging in the team and organization? So these are the 3 differences, but they're all integrated. So I felt that most of the time, the telltale signs comes from the data points of employee engagement survey, but we should not stop there. It's an action in terms of diagnostic, but the next action is a follow-up. So I would say that even the report, it shows one common key lever, because we have multi-generation workforce, so we need to find something that can strike across all generations, was actually a sense of purpose at work. And I think the organizations and leaders could leverage on that. Maybe the day-to-day work responsibilities. Do you let your people felt that they have a sense of connection and belonging? What they do matters. So even it's a day-to-day routine-based work, it's not just work. So if I notice someone, even it's a common, it's a very mundane job, just like, for instance, shared service. I have a client who is in shared service, doing finance, clear your processes, your payroll, or the procurement. Actually, it's behind the scenes, right? But it's very critical because it is also how they contribute to ensure that there is accuracy of the payment, there's timeliness. And I think that's where we need to really let them understand that why your role is so critical. It is helping the organization to achieve certain timeline, helping serving internal and external customers. So leaders has to amplify this. And I give you one example. I remember this particular participant in a uniform group. He was a K9 dog handler.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I asked him, what is your job about? And suddenly he was stunned. He just cannot explain what is his job about. He's quite young. I mean, it was a young Gen Y at the time. And I go deeper and said that your job as a dog handler is to prevent any drug traffickers, is to ensure there's safety and security when you handle the dog. And you take care of your dog, right, to patrol around the country. And suddenly I saw his eyes actually shone. It's like an aha moment that he realized that, yeah, actually my work matters. There is a meaning, and that will motivate the person to see that what I'm doing is not insignificant. It's so impactful. And of course, when someone praise them, people recognize them, it's even better. So I felt that a very simple way that leaders can start is even those day-to-day tasks, don't treat that as something mundane. I do have cases where leaders mention that it's just a job. They're paid for it. So why is there a need to tell them and encourage them? But I think all of us need encouragement to be seen, to be recognized. So in this case, I always share with the leaders that you can start with something called PSP. P is first you affirm the person and encourage the person that you want to appreciate for, and then be specific. You need to be specific, like what I notice about you, what do you do well, what are you contributing and how. And of course, the last P is the purpose. So they see that their job, even as a shared service or something that's very mundane and routine, not the high impact contributions they felt, they do see that connection to the role and their contribution to the organization, and also personal meaning.
I want to touch on this term that seems to be always within the conversation whenever we're talking about whether people are happy at the workplace. It's burnout, right? Because even happy people can be burnt out.
Yes.
Right? I've been burnt out and I was still happy at that job. Like, it wasn't the reason for my unhappiness.
Happily burning out.
Happily burning out, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it eventually led to unhappiness, but like at the beginning, it wasn't like a switch that when I felt burnt out, I felt unhappy. So how big of a problem do you observe that burnout or work stress is for people in the workforce?
I do feel that contributes to your workplace happiness or unhappiness. So burnout is a prolonged process whereby day to day you felt that you are getting tired, exhausted, and the worst case scenario is you drag your feet to go to work. So I think for your case, it's burning out, but it's more like burning brightly. Perhaps there were some factors that make you felt that at the point of time you're still able to sustain it. But I think we cannot sustain for too long. You need to know when it's time to pause and have that conversation. And I think for engaged employees, most of them are able to withstand burnout. And the reason is because, number one, there could be also this relational health in the team. I think we all are familiar with physical health to keep ourselves healthy in sports and our mental health. But there's also this relational health. That means in the team, during that period where you felt there was very high demand and workplace stress, how do your leader and team members provide that support for you? But burnout can be a very big problem if it's a silent and the staff dare not feel safe to voice out to the leaders.
Right.
I do have middle managers, and actually they face a lot of burnout because they have the senior management expecting them to work this workload and to manage the workload of their people, and they have to manage their bosses and themselves. At the same time, there's also have to motivate their people working with them, and they're caught in between. It's like, although I'm a middle management, I have to still put on a smiling horse despite I'm crying in front of my team because I am the leader. I have to set the stage.
You have a responsibility.
Yes, that's right. But at the same time, I'm struggling. I have no one to turn to. I can't tell my team members how I'm feeling. I'm in the middle management. My senior management expecting me to do this, to drive this down. And why are your people not working on it? And why are they so slow in their response? So I think that there is a very important need for them to feel safe, to talk to someone, whether in their peers or talking to their leaders for help. And also the team, we come together to also give support to each other during these difficult times. But it should not be a prolonged period that is burning out every day. So that's where it happens that people start to get disengaged, or they start to leave the organization, or perhaps they start to find that I don't want to bring my best self to work. Most of the time, I think leaders don't have the conversation with the staff that, how can I help you to do your job better?
Right.
So in my working with leaders, I remember there was one success story, was this organization, they have done restructuring. So they merged two departments together. One is procurement and one is business development. At the point of time when we do the retreat, something was very different. So the senior leader said that, in workplace retreat, it's always like crying horse for us. Oh no, it's going to be more work to do, right? It's always adding on something that is already on my plate, right? So he started with a minus mindset. He told his team members that when you come before this retreat, please do some homework. what do you think we should stop doing?
Mm.
What is something that is no longer useful and relevant? It could be good at the point of time, but not now. Right? What should we minimize before we can start to do and to change? So there was very high energy when the people come in, they propose ideas on what to improve, what to reduce. And that came a very success story that they felt that even the merger, they can work together and focus on more important things. Another success story I learned was through SGH. So I thought they have a very good concept called GROSS, right? GROSS.
Doesn't sound very good.
Yeah, but it means get rid of silly stuff.
Okay, that sounds a lot better than...
So how do you get rid of silly stuff? They use a very simple framework, which is called SIMPLE, okay? So the first S is simplified work processes. The I, does it improve or impact the emotions? Does it spark joy for you at work and others? Okay, so it's S and I. Does it minimize? Can we minimize something? All right, and of course, SIMP. P means do not pass the buck to someone. Right, do not pass the problem to someone. Get it done, solve it at your own. Be proactive to take charge. Right. So and lastly, L is let it go. So let it go is like letting go of things that's legacy, things that's no longer relevant. Maybe they are useful in the past, but we still continue to do it because this is what it has been done all along.
They always do it like this.
Yeah, we just spend time to evaluate whether it's necessary. And lastly is E, is how to make it implement at ease. So growth can be simple, and that may reduce that workload and burnout.
I mean, companies can do a lot, but if today we are not willing to get help or to speak about our situation, to even realize that we are burning out, then I think we really owe it to ourselves to reflect and be aware of where we are at.
I do wonder though whether, burning out, unhappiness, are these symptoms of specific industries or specific types of workplaces?
Oh, so you're saying like is it more common for certain industries?
Yeah, like are some industries, for example, happier than other industries? Is this something that we've seen or something that you've observed?
I would say that if you're in the service industry, depends where you are working. But of course, there are some industry that people do not see your visibility. So, for example,
no recognition.
You're not the back end. You do all those work that people doesn't want to do unnoticed. So I felt that perhaps also that comes from external customers, and we may not able to control external customers on how they react, especially in the service industry. So internally, we got to do more. Internally, we got to have our team resilience with the emotional health, relational health. So I think there are moments that you mentioned just now, despite your burnout, something may have happened that you still are able to burn brightly at a point of time was perhaps people around you.
Yeah, definitely. The people I was with were amazing. Yeah.
But I mean, on that note, I'm also a big believer of how it's not just the environment. The environment is important, right? But I believe that like when you were burning brightly, I believe you probably felt like there was something meaningful for you personally.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really important point here, right? It's not industry agnostic. The whole point about meaningfulness at work, happiness at work, right, is something that we bring rather than what the job gives to us. Yes, the environment plays a very big part in creating the environment to sustain, to nurture that kind of feeling. But where it starts really is from within us.
Right.
Yeah. So like when you were burning brightly, like did you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, I wouldn't have burnt out if I didn't commit myself to something, right? And I commit myself to something because I believe in it.
There you
I
go.
believe in the work having impact on the people that I serve or in the communities that would benefit from the work that I do, right?
So I'm a big believer of when we want to create purpose, when we want purposeful work, we don't wait for it to drop, but rather we start to see what we are doing. But how can I make it purposeful for myself, right? And also for somebody else. I'm sure you heard about people who skive in their job, they cut corners, right? And when I see these stories, I always find that it's not so much of the person's character, all right? Because I don't believe anybody wants to do shoddy work. But I just believe it's like their heart is not in doing those tasks. And how do we then increase that motivation for them so that they can see the purpose, so that like you, they can believe in something,
Well, hopefully they believe in it enough, but they don't burn out trying to pursue that.
Yeah, so Ned, just now you mentioned about that period where you are burning brightly was you actually have a lot of self-motivation. But unfortunately, not everyone are self-motivated.
Right.
How you motivate yourself is through your own intrinsic motivation. But we also need a bit of like extrinsic from external, could be environment, could be our leaders and our peers, to let us see the meaningfulness of the job.
But I feel like one thing that probably motivates quite a lot of people, something that unifies a lot of workers, is their salary. Is this one of the hugest factors for whether a worker is happy or whether people are happy at their jobs? And depending on your answer, I will show this clip to my boss.
Sure. So pay is number one.
Mm.
But as you know, pay sometimes there is no we cannot be within our circle of influence, because even for leaders, you have certain pay policy, and depending on the economy as well as the organization financial outcomes. So pay is definitely a hygiene factor. I mean, I would say reasonable pay, not underpaid, right? But of course, even someone who is highly paid, it may not make them happy, because it may require you to work longer hours, you get burnout, and
There's a trade-off.
yes, there's a
Yeah.
trade-off, and you felt that, is this worthwhile?
Mm.
So what came out from the report, that was 3 very key levers that I think organizations can easily implement. So one is meaningful purpose of the work. That's the first factor. The second factor is career progression opportunities. So I think it's very important for us to define career progression. It's not the traditional thinking that is always promotion. Progression can be a conversation with staff to find out that what do you want to learn this year? What do you want to grow in what area of work with competencies, or try new assignments, new projects? And the third is about the day-to-day work responsibilities.
Yeah.
So that actually matters a lot to how you felt at work most of the time. And that also can lead to burnout, where you felt your day-to-day work responsibilities is unrecognized, undervalued. So pay is important, but some people just may not use pay as the only factor.
I think if you look at pay as a factor itself, right, after a while you start to run out. The runway becomes shorter every time. And also I think research has shown that pay increments, increasing pay hits a certain ceiling of a utility,
Right.
which means that after a while it stops being motivating. In fact, I think from a practical perspective, if today you're looking at mobility across jobs, then you can think about it as you're earning a lot more. It also limits a lot of the jobs that you can technically move into. Yeah, so there are some practical and research perspectives on pay, whether more is it better. But of course, if you ask the average Singaporean, pay more is better.
Yeah,
right?
pay will solve everything for
Yes.
some people. We've been talking quite a lot about the factors behind happiness, the factors that impede happiness, and some of the things that maybe could boost happiness a little bit. But it seems like all three of us here on the Work It Couch believe that happiness in the workplace is possible. We are part of the 8 out of 10 people who
Yes.
believe in this, right?
Yes.
So the question now is, for the 44% of Singaporeans who are unhappy in their jobs right now, what can they do? What actionable steps can they take to find happiness for themselves in the workplace?
This report shared that it's a shared responsibility between the employer and employee. However, I felt that the leaders has to start first.
Okay.
Right,
So
it's not-
the employees cannot take the initiative. Like, it has to be from the management,
I
from the
would say
company.
that depending on your comfort level with your leaders, of course, some of us will have the very strong trust and comfort level to initiate. But most of us will look at our leader's response. Maybe you can tell a leader that for this year, what I want to learn, what do I want to grow in what area. So you can keep out with your own initiatives, like there are certain projects that you want to try, there are certain things that you want to streamline, improve, and be very clear of what you want. Think of what to convey to the leader. Think of what would be something that the leader would see as a win-win. Yeah, so as a win-win, it's a mutual benefit. It is easier for you to share your concerns and ask for help.
So I believe that for many of us, when it comes to happiness at work, perhaps the question that we should be starting at is, do we want to be happy?
Right.
I think it goes back to the original starting point of our pod, where we talked about whether people do they see their jobs as just a paycheck?
A job
Or-
is a job.
Yeah, or do they actually see their job as like something more purposeful? I think if today we have the idea that, okay, we want our jobs to be more than just paying us a salary, then working on what Jasmine was giving us makes a lot of sense, right? Making the effort to the micro steps to speak to my bosses, to know what I want, and then hopefully with the support from the organization to also reach out to us and to help to us to see our work being meaningful. All right, helping us to feel appreciated at workplace, then I think then this is where the happiness at work really will start to emerge.
Well, Gerald, I think this is a good place to end the conversation. Thanks so much, Jasmine, for joining us on the Work It Set. Hello and welcome back to the Ask Work It section of the podcast. If you have a question that you're struggling with and you don't have anyone to turn to, why not write to us? We are at cnapodcast@mediacorp.com.sg, and we'll try our best to help you out. Gerald, today the question was sent in by a listener by the name of Alex.
Mhm.
Now, Alex says that one of his colleagues took urgent leave one morning, claiming that his child was sick. But then word spread that this colleague actually went to interview at another company.
Okay.
So it seems like somebody at the other company tipped off the manager or something, maybe. So this colleague ended up not getting the job at the other company, and things quickly became very tense at the
The-
Alex's current workplace.
Because they knew.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I mean, when you know someone's leaving, and like things
Someone has
can
intentions to leave, someone has been interviewing elsewhere, then it changes the dynamics.
Yeah, and using their sick child as an excuse. I mean, so
Mm.
eventually the colleague resigned before securing a new job. Now, Alex is thinking of changing his work environment, so looking for a job himself, right? But he watched all of this go down, and now he's scared that something similar might happen to him. So he's
Okay.
asking, how can he look for a new job discreetly without risking his current role?
Wow. So, when it comes to job search, right?
Yeah.
And job searching while you have a job, unfortunately, there's no clear protocols nor SOPs.
Yeah. Culturally, also, like it
Yes.
depends on your boss kind of
It's
situation.
almost very situational. Yeah. I mean, I think most people would not inform their bosses, be open to tell their colleagues that, hey, I'm going for a job interview.
Right. Yeah. But actually, I did that.
Oh, you did?
So, yeah, in my first job, I was still on probation. I was maybe 2 months in.
Okay.
And I told my manager, hey, I need to take time off, but I don't have leave benefits yet, right? So, can I take some time off because I have to go for this job interview? And at that time, young, wide-eyed, and
Okay.
I just asked very earnestly, and he granted it to me. I didn't get the job, but when I came back, he didn't know that I didn't get the job.
Okay.
So he actually gave me a pay raise.
What?
Yeah. So
Really?
I'm not saying that this will work out for everybody. I'm just saying it worked out for me. But back to Alex, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not going to tell him, go and tell your manager and tell him be very upfront and expect a pay raise.
Yes. That's not quite the norm. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think when what Alex is seeing here from his colleague, I think he can learn some stuff, right? Like one of the things is not to lie.
Yeah.
Not to use your children as an excuse for you to go for job interviews. I
Yeah.
think sometimes when you go for interviews, there's a high chance actually, even though you don't tell people, that people somehow know.
Yes.
Let me give you an example, right? Like if you are going to interview at another company that's related to yours or in the same industry, you might meet people along the way. You might meet your vendors, your partners, and then work gets around. It's your right to go for interviews. Let's just put it clearly. But at the same time, you shouldn't be using excuses.
Yeah, because I've also noticed, most times when I've gone for a job interview, I've had a job at that time. But whenever I told colleagues this, I stopped telling my manager after that first one because I gained some sense. But it's not like my colleagues would react negatively, right? I think the environment for Alex changed, or for Alex's former colleague changed, because he broke trust. He told everybody, garnered some sympathy, saying that his child is sick, but actually he went for job interview. And I think that was the issue more so
Than the
than
interview.
Yeah,
Yeah, I nobody wants to work with a colleague that they cannot trust, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say today you want to go and apply for a job while job hunting while you are employed, and you're not going to lie about it. Then how should we do it then?
Yeah, well, that's a big question
Yeah.
because some places they don't really do job interviews outside of office hours, right? And some of them, even though it's during office hours, they expect you to come in to the office. They don't do things online. So the big question is, how do you take time off, or how do you, I guess, balance that need to go for that interview versus your need to tell people at your workplace
Yeah.
that you are going somewhere,
Yeah.
or to just take time off, I guess.
Yeah, I think it is a balance, and I think taking your personal time off, taking leave, to attend interviews, I think it's quite fair. Most of the time when people take leave, you might get someone asking like, "Oh, where are you
Yeah.
going?"
Why you take one day in the middle of the week?
Yes, or why are you taking half a day of leave?
Yeah.
What they may feel like they want to poke a little bit there, but it's okay for you to not mention that. You can just say it's personal.
Yeah.
I think saying it's personal, people, and leaving the unspoken, leaving it there in that space, I think it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Would doing the opposite have a different effect? For example, we all know that LinkedIn, you can change your profile picture
Oh yeah, the
to
open to
say
work.
open to work,
Yes.
right? Is that something that you would recommend?
Oh wow.
I've
Okay.
never done it, so I don't know how
Would you
effective
would
it
you
is.
would you would you
I feel
do
a
it?
bit paiseh. I feel a bit embarrassed to put it
Okay,
there.
so what would you think your bosses would feel if they saw like your LinkedIn had this green color thing at the side that says open to work?
Yeah, I guess it's because I think it wouldn't reflect very well on me if I didn't give my bosses a heads up, right?
Yeah.
And they just saw one Monday my LinkedIn profile picture, unless I block them, right? So I don't know, is there a conventional wisdom around this?
On LinkedIn, there's actually another setting that you can use that is not open to work, but I'm open to work, but I don't want people to know, but I want recruiters to know. So there is that secondary option there that doesn't come with that label on your profile photo. So
Right.
I will say that that's perhaps maybe one way you can use to signal to the recruiters that you are available or you are motivated to look for something new.
Right.
You
So
know,
you get to present your profile to the right people, basically.
yes, the
Yeah.
right people will get access to your profile. It doesn't send wrong signals to your bosses, your team. Like, why is Ned suddenly open to work? Did we do something wrong? Should I have a conversation
Maybe I
with him?
just thought that it meant I'm open to doing work, like at this company. So
Oh, sorry, boss. Wrong signals.
yeah, now I cannot use the excuse when they ask me next time.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But so there are a few, I guess, conventional wisdom or bits of advice that travels whenever you're looking for a job and people will advise you on these things. One of the things that people say is that you should only search for jobs on your personal devices. Never
Okay.
use your work laptop, never use your work profile on Google Chrome or whatever to surf the net for job opportunities. Is this something that you agree with or abide by? Like,
If it's possible,
mm,
right, use your own device, because I have seen cases before where people have applied for jobs using their work email.
oh,
They correspond with the HR of the other company using their work email, and I'm thinking like, what's up with that?
okay. I didn't even consider that because to me that sounds a bit like are you going to tell your whole IT department that you're basically looking for a
Yeah.
job?
So we don't know how much scrutiny the
Mhm.
companies have over your work devices. If you want to maintain the confidentiality, right, then use your own email.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that these cases that I've seen before, it could be that they forgot. So use your own personal device, your own personal email accounts as much as possible.
One thing that I am wondering now is would you advise being open about going for job interviews with your colleagues?
So great question, right? So this is something that it's really there are different practices, or rather different examples I've seen. Some people will really not tell anybody,
Ah.
right, until the deal is done. Then they start to tell their colleagues,
Oh,
and
okay.
sometimes they even hold back until like they cross probation. Then they tell.
Oh, okay, because they want to make sure that they actually
They actually
stay there.
on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
And also,
okay.
of course, there are worries of like sabotage, right? Especially when you're in the process, they are afraid that your friends become your enemies and they start to sabotage you by ratting on you to the new company.
Yeah.
So very often it's normal for people to say, I'm leaving, but I'm going to another company, but I'll let you know when I'm settled in.
Right.
So this is usually what they would do. Of course, some people they can't hold it in, and they will tell their besties at work.
They want to flex a bit and like, I got this.
Yeah, flex, or maybe even just like they just really felt like that person was a bestie.
Okay,
They really
okay.
trusted that person. So I don't know how much trust you can have with a workplace colleague, right? Maybe this bestie that you trusted told another person who's
their bestie also.
who's a broadcast system lah. Yeah, everybody
Yes.
knows after a while. Then you're like wondering where the leak came from.
Yeah. Okay, so bringing this back to our viewer, our listener, Alex, what actionable steps, I guess, would you advise him to take to be able to look for his new place of work discreetly?
Yeah.
Are there any tips and tricks you have for him that doesn't involve lying to his colleagues or to his manager?
Schedule those interviews at a time where it's your personal time. All right. So I've seen interviews being done after work. After work hours, during lunch times, taking personal leave to do that. That's one. I think one of the other parts is about references, right? Don't put your current employer as a reference.
Okay, yes.
Right. As best as you can, because it'll be quite strange.
It'll be quite strange for you to still be at your desk and they receive a call while looking at you. Are you so and so's manager? He's applying for a job at my company.
Unless there have been cases before where you have been asked to like keep lookout already, and then
Ah.
your current bosses are like, I'm willing to be your referee. So then that's okay because that's valuable.
Yes,
That's the
yes.
most direct reference for a
It's the
new
best
company.
testimonial because it's the
Yes,
most recent.
yes, most recent, and you're still kind of in it.
Well, Alex, I hope this is helpful for you. For the rest of you listening and watching, if you, like Alex, have a work-related dilemma, write to us. We, again, are at cnapodcast@mediacorp.com.sg.
I'm Gerald.
And I'm Nat. And remember, discretion is wise, but honesty still matters. Protect your privacy without burning bridges.